Okay, so today we are diving into some really exciting ALS research. It's about a potential new treatment, and that's always something to get fired up about, right?
It is, especially with ALS, where, frankly, we need more options. It's a tough disease.
It really is. This study out of Germany caught my eye because it's not about a brand new drug, it's about repurposing an existing one, and the target is inflammation.
Yeah, and that's what makes this so interesting. We're talking about Anakinra, which is already used for rheumatoid arthritis, but they're looking at it for ALS, specifically a type called progressive muscular atrophy, PMA.
Okay, so inflammation, ALS, and a rheumatoid arthritis drug. That's a lot to unpack. What's the connection?
Well, researchers have been looking at inflammation in ALS for a while now. The idea is that the body's own immune system might be part of the problem, attacking nerve cells. And a key player in all this is something called IL-1 beta.
IL-1 beta. That's one of those things that makes my eyes glaze over a little. Can you break it down for us, non-scientists?
Sure, basically, it's like an attack signal. When the body senses danger, it releases IL-1 beta, which triggers inflammation. But in ALS, it seems like these signals are going haywire, and they're actually contributing to the damage of motor neurons.
So it's like the body's own defense system is attacking itself.
Exactly. And that's where Anakinra comes in.
Right.
It's designed to block that attack signal, that IL-1 beta.
So it's not necessarily fixing the root cause of ALS, but it's potentially stopping one of the major side effects, the inflammation that's causing more damage.
You got it.
Okay, so they gave Anakinra to these ALS patients, and what happened? Did it actually work to reduce those attack signals?
Well, they saw some really promising results. The study focused on 19 patients, and they found that Anakinra significantly reduced a key indicator of inflammation in the blood, something called serum fibrinogen.
So less inflammation, that's good, but did they see any impact on the actual disease, on how the ALS was progressing?
And that's where it gets really interesting, particularly for those with PMA. They saw a trend towards slower disease progression in the PMA group compared to patients with the more common form of ALS.
Slower progression, that's huge, right?
It is, potentially. It suggests that by targeting this inflammation pathway, we might be able to slow down the loss of those motor neurons, which is ultimately what causes the debilitating symptoms of ALS.
So potentially a way to slow down the disease, especially for those with PMA.
Now, it's important to remember, this was a small study, a pilot study, so we need more research to be sure. But even the possibility is incredibly exciting. I mean, imagine, right, imagine being able to tell someone with PMA, hey, we might have a way to slow this thing down, to give you more time. That's what's so powerful about this research.
Absolutely. It's one thing to talk about scientific markers and whatnot, but the idea of actually making a difference in someone's life, giving them more time.
That's the goal, right?
Exactly. But you mentioned needing more research. What are the next steps here? What needs to happen?
Right, so this pilot study, it's like finding a clue, a really promising clue, but we need more evidence.
To build the case.
Exactly. We need those big trials, the larger placebo-controlled trials.
So that means having a group that gets the drug and a group that gets a placebo, basically a sugar pill.
Yeah, the placebo, and that way you can see if the effects you're seeing are really from the drug or just.
The placebo effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it'll be important to focus on PMA patients specifically, I think, given the results they saw in this initial study.
This is all sounding incredibly hopeful, but for someone listening who's thinking, okay, this Anakinra, is this something I should be asking my doctor about right now? What would you say?
Yeah, I get it. It's natural to hear this and get your hopes up, but it's really important to remember this is still early.
We don't want to give false hope.
Exactly. Anakinra, it's not a magic bullet, at least not yet, and we need those larger trials to really know if it's effective and safe for ALS specifically,
So not a cure, but potentially a really important piece of the puzzle.
for sure. And this whole idea of inflammation in ALS, it's part of a bigger picture too.
What do you mean?
Well, there's more and more research looking at inflammation as a factor in a lot of neurodegenerative diseases, not just ALS.
So this could have implications for other conditions too, like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. It's like we're looking at this whole other side of the coin now. It's not just, okay, these nerve cells are dying, how do we stop that? It's more like, why are they dying? What's causing this damage in the first place?
Yeah, and if we can figure out the root causes of this inflammation, that opens up a whole world of possibilities for treatment, not just for ALS.
Right? For, like you were saying, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all these other neurodegenerative diseases. It's pretty amazing when you think about it that this one study, this one drug, could have such far-reaching implications.
it really speaks to how interconnected all of this is,
Mm.
Scientific research, it's not just these separate silos. A discovery in one area can really snowball, and suddenly you have breakthroughs in all these other areas too.
Absolutely. So for our listeners, for anyone who's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed by all this, or maybe just unsure what to make of it all, what's the key takeaway here?
I think it's a message of cautious optimism. This research, it's exciting, especially for those with PMA, but it's important to remember this is still early days. We need more research.
So not getting ahead of ourselves. But in the meantime, what can people do?
Stay informed, talk to your doctor, ask questions. Knowledge is power, right?
Huh?
Even with a disease as complex as ALS, the more you know, the better equipped you are to advocate for yourself and make informed decisions.
Couldn't agree more. This has been a fascinating deep dive, really eye-opening. A lot to think about, a lot to be hopeful for. And remember, everyone, research like this, it thrives on awareness. So if you found this information helpful, share it. Talk to your friends, your family, spread the word. Because sometimes hope is contagious, and we can all use a little more of that in the world.